Welcome today, our first session we have on the FRO 2020 election. So our mayor, Eugene Tewalt, is here today, and let me set some of the ground rules, what we're going to talk about a little bit. Each candidate is here voluntarily. They were sent a list of 20 questions that were pulled together by the community of issues and things that we need to address as a community moving forward with this next council. They've had their choice of picking any of the top 5 that they would want to chat about today, and what we're going to do today, Gene, is let you respond to some of the questions that you want to talk about. This is to talk about these local issues. We will not talk about national issues or partisan issues. This is going to be dealing with town issues and moving forward, and hopefully will help develop a vision for the community coming. I have a little disclaimer here. The last time I talked to Mike when I was interviewed, I failed to say that Mr. Tewalt was also a council member when I was brought on board as town manager, and I also served under him as mayor. So, me and Gene have some good history together, and we did some great things when we were together. So, Gene, you're back.
Yes, I'm here.
You're back. You're coming back.
Well, I don't know if I'm coming back. I've been here, and I'm still here. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, Gene, today is, you have your 5 issues. I mean, is there any particular one you want to kick it off?
Well, yeah, I think the first one I want to talk about a little bit is about water and sewer. Water and sewer, I don't know, most people don't realize that water is one of our main commodities in any town, because in most cases, most time, the water has been an issue for years, because we're not going to have enough water if we don't start impounding water. Mm-hmm. And when the rain doesn't come, we get put on standby by the DEQ and telling us that as long as if the river's not running at a certain means factor, they call it, then we have to go on rationing water or asking people to conserve water. And so right now, we've been lucky for the last several years, but a couple years ago we had to do it in December, which is very unusual. But water is one of our best things that we need to look at today, because we just can't go out here and hook everybody up to water just because they want water, because we need to make sure that we are giving the water main function of that to our in-town customers.
Right.
And so we need to do
when you say inside, the town is obligated to provide water for the people who live inside the town limits.
That's
right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Gene, just a couple questions on that. Not too long ago, I guess there was one issue about giving more water out to 522 corridor, and I think there was a big housing project or something that went on, and I think that that was delayed somewhat because of a water study, or we were waiting for the results of a water study. Was that study done, and what did it really tell us?
Well, yeah, we had the water study completed, and when we looked at the results of the water study, they had recommended, at the time we were having trouble with the water and sewer tap fees, and everybody said they were too high, which I didn't agree with that, because we're not even close to Frederick County. Matter of fact, their water and sewer tap fees are probably twice or maybe 3 times more than ours. And because of that actually development was in a stall in Front Row Warren County. And again, I didn't agree with that. So when the study came back, is that our water 3/4 inch water taps at that time was $4,340. And then when the study came back, they had dropped it down to $2,663. And the same way with the sewer. Was $9,050 per tap, and then they dropped it down to $7,330. So that, when you look at that, that was exactly roughly a $5,000 difference that we're losing on every water and sewer tap that we give out. Since that time, the water study was approved by the council. And so if you look at that, say we had 30 taps in town, we would have lost around $122,000 in our reserves for water and sewer. And if it had been in the county, we'd have lost double that, because the water taps in the county are double what they are in the town of Royal. In this study, as it came back, the rate study, in order to make up this difference, was they wanted us to raise our water and sewer rates by 2%. Now, that's not a lot of money, but overall, if you take the 5,600 customers we have, and it raises, say, X number of pennies per thing, it amounts to quite a bit of money. Same with the sewer. They want us to raise our sewer rates by 4%. And the first one, the 2%, we didn't do it, but the 4% will be included within the sewer rates. So when you look at the whole process, when we talk about the corridor out there, no, we in my opinion, we have 1,930 homes that has already been approved, but they haven't been, built yet. But we have to make sure that we have the water to capacity to do that. And with our actual permitting, we can only draw 4 million gallons of water out of the river under the DEQ permit. And right now, our plant is able to produce around 6 million. But again, if you can only get 4, you can't give you 6. So, and right now we're running between 2.3, 2.5 millions per day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that
we have some open capacity.
We have some capacity, but again, though, if the corridor, if this would have happened, it would have been an additional roughly 800,000 or 900,000 more gallons. So that would have put us over a 3 million gallon mark or a little better, and that would have, looked at the reserves on that.
Right.
Because, again, if we were going into conserving water during that year, then we would have really been hurting if we'd had another 900,000 gallons per day going out of our system. And so it was sort of put on hold, and I don't know what the status is as of right now and what the...
Well, I think the concern for the citizens of some of the future problems we're going to be facing is the availability of water, and what I've read, and also from the north, whatever the planning commission is for us, is that most of the water was only projected out for mainly residential growth, but we know we have a revenue issue, and the revenue issue is we can't continue to tax our citizens, to run the operation. So communities need economic growth and they need industrial growth. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was concerning me about that was the fact that it didn't really allow for any industrial growth. Do we have the capacity if all of a sudden a big industry wants to come in? They could zap up that extra that we have right now. So that's what a lot of people were telling me. That's what they're concerned about. He says, okay, we know that we got to bring revenue in, so we have to have enough water for an industrial type of company coming in here. And then, what are we going to do if one comes in? I think about 4 or 5 years ago we turned away a brewery, I think, because it was too much water.
Yeah, that's been quite a while ago. Yes.
Was it quite? I'm losing track of time.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, we can't project what's going to happen in the future, but we can project it on the basis of how many homes we have already actually approved to be constructed.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that we are looking out, again, for the citizens of Front Royal. Now, don't get me wrong, the money that comes in from the corridor helps the county and their school systems and things like that. And we have, under the 1998 agreement, we have, given them the right to come in and request water for industrial or commercial. Mm-hmm. And then we did another MOU that we're going to allow them to have so much water, but at no time residential was not part of it.
Right.
And so when it comes to the residential part in the county, I'm 100% against that.
Okay.
Because I just think that we need to look out strictly for our in-town customers, residential-wise, and then if we want to expand the corridor, just expand it under the commercial and or the industrial side.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of leads me tapped into water, tap in the water.
Okay.
It seems to be a dispute with Dominion right now on cost of that looping system, which they agreed to many years ago to be a participant in it.
That's correct.
I've kind of lost track with that. I mean, what's your position on? I mean, are they going to pay for it? They're not going to pay for it, and what happens if they renege?
Well, again, this, and I'm not sure the exact date when that was approved. I think it was in 2011 or 12. that they had a contract with Dominion Power, and in that time that they were going to give the town $3.5 million to put the loop in, or so that we have a redundant water line system.
Do you think that's necessary? Do you think a redundant
Well,
system is necessary?
let's put it this way: it can be necessary, and it may not be. If we never have a water break in the line going out there, no, that we don't need it. But if we have a water line break under the river, and sometimes it's hard to find one in a river because where you have water anyway. So if you don't have a water line break, then you're okay. But if you do, you got a major problem, because we have the tank out at the Fairground Road, and it only holds X number of million gallons, and so when that water is depleted, then there's no way to get water back out there unless we have another redundant water line to replace the line that's broken. And so, and when you look at it on one side, if we do it, then we do have a redundancy that if something would happen, hopefully it doesn't, that we would have the other line to fall back on to continue to supply water to the corridor. And because we have given them the water and sewer taps, then we are actually responsible to make sure they have water and have the ability to get water when they need water.
Yeah.
So if you look at it on that basis, yes, we need the redundant water line. Now, if we'd have built it back when this thing was done in 2011 or 12, whenever it was, we could have probably did it for about $4 million, which we would only had to put in $1 million excess. Now, that is climbed to $12 million. And so when you take the $3.5 million that Dominion was going to give us, or is going to give us, then you find out that that's $8.5 million that somewhere is going to have to come out of the coffers from the town, either through the water or the sewer, or really under the water enterprise fund.
And that really, based on what you said earlier, if that happened, then you'd have to increase water rates again.
Oh yeah,
Sewer rates,
no doubt about increasing water rates. But our engineer says that, and again, I when I say this, they telling us that we have the contract with the Dominion Power, and the contract, when the rates go up, then that'll be enough funding to pay forward to cover the cost of the redundant water line.
Okay.
Now, until that happens, I can only speculate that they're saying it's true, but when it comes to reality, I'm not sure.
As councilman, is that something you rank up there as a priority that needs to get done during your next 4 years?
Well, let's put it this way: if we're ever going to do it, we need to do it, because every year the price goes up another $2 or $3 million, and so if we think we need it and the council agrees to it, then we probably need to continue to go ahead and work towards getting it completed.
Right. Is there any chance that you could go back to Dominion and ask them to chip in a little bit more into this thing, which clearly they're going to benefit from?
Well, it's always a possibility, but
Right.
it depends on what reality comes forward. We can always ask for more, but sometimes the asking doesn't get you a whole lot of coins.
Well,
But we'll try. I'm sure of that.
okay, well, I hope at least try, because the worst thing they could say is no, right?
That's right.
But
That's
they might say yes.
They might say yes, and
They might say
that would be
yes,
the
that'd be here.
positive part of it.
I know that when you were mayor, one of the things you were talking about is redundancy and making sure we had backup. I mean, I think you did the power station. We put in a backup generator for the water pumping systems.
We did, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, and I thought that was a very good move, and so that way if everything goes down, because I think currently in town we don't have a backup. So you got at the hospital, and we have one at the fire department, but other than that, there's no really backup system other than down there for the
You
water.
talking about electrical?
The
or
electrical
electrical
backups.
part?
Yeah.
We have one at the disposal plant, one at
Okay.
the water plant, and one at town hall, and we have some redundancy in that department. But again, if the power goes out, we still can produce water, and we can generate as far as going through the process of the sewer system. That still can be done.
I think I did some figuring. I think you've been involved with elected positions for about 15 years.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little 15,
Maybe
and
longer.
you work for the town for what, another
25.
So I would say probably you know just about where everything is and everything is located and all kinds of stuff.
Well, I knew everything was located when I was working. Over the 20 years I've been retired, they done some things that I'm really not aware of, but most of it I am aware of, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one of the problems with the council is it's not that you don't like new people, new ideas, but sometimes you got to have some institutional knowledge. And it's always nice to have institutional knowledge, especially when you have maybe staff in place that probably doesn't have a lot of experience in this. So I would think it's a real opportunity to giving you the ability to pass on some of this institutional knowledge, I guess, if they listen to you.
Well, that's the biggest problem I've had.
Yeah.
Nobody listens.
Nobody listens.
Everybody's got their own opinion, and doesn't matter what your opinion was years ago when you were doing it. They have their opinion, and it's hard for them to change their opinion when they know they're wrong or whether they're right. So it's tough for people to make a change in their own lifestyle in that respect.
Well, unfortunately, these times are very divisive, and it's a
They
shame
are.
that we can't get along. But let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the county. Things have really changed in the county. I mean, they've had a changeover in leadership there. It seems like Walt Mabe is really trying to pull everybody together and actually reaching out. He talks to me sometimes about how he enjoys working with you, and I haven't heard that too often. That that the
Well, that's
county
true.
kind of likes to work with each other. So how with that change, how would you help initiate change to kind of reciprocate back to the county? What would you do?
Well, I think our biggest problem today is, and again, when we say we're lacking communication between the two groups. Mm-hmm. We try to do all of our work between attorneys. And as you know and I know, you never get anything accomplished when you have attorneys involved with some project, whatever it may be.
Other than spending money.
That's correct. And I think that if we could sit down, either Walt Mabe and myself and maybe one or another councilman, and we all work towards the goal of what we're looking for, and the council would be supportive of that, then I think we could have a great relationship between the county and the town. But until we get the attorneys out of the picture, it's not going to get any better, because every time that one attorney says one thing, the other one disagrees, and so we don't get involved in that because the attorneys are speaking for us, and I think that's wrong. I think that the council and the mayor should sit down and discuss exactly what we want and leave the attorneys at home. And I think we could get something accomplished if we did it that way.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think the biggest thing is right now? You get back in office. What is the one thing you want to see work to? What do you want to work with the county on to be able to accomplish if you get back in?
Well, I think that right now the biggest thing that we want to accomplish is and it may be done before the election. I'm hoping maybe it's a possibility that we get this deal with the police department through the EDA wound up, and we borrow the money, pay off the $8.4 million plus the $500,000 interest that has accrued over the last 6 or 7 months, and get that thing off of our books. Now, we do have a problem with the Leech Run Parkway and some other issues, but let's take it one bite at a
Yeah.
like the old saying is of elephant. If you want to eat an elephant, you take it by one bite at a time.
That's
And
right.
as far as I'm concerned, that's the way we should be handling this, instead of going to a court system and trying to get the courts to tell us what to do, when to do, and how to do.
Right.
That we sit down and work out our problems and go ahead and get it accomplished.
Well, what's confusing for the people out here, and I get questions all the time, and we're talking about the police department now, and is the fact that we're really confused right now, because the last meeting, I think, Councilman Holloway made this grand statement, that they were not responsible, and then 3 days later, it was made the announcement that, no, they're negotiating. We're pretty much confused on what was the purpose of that, and what's really, maybe you're inside, you know what's going on. I guess you know what's going on. What is, we don't understand.
Well, Mike, really, truthfully, I'm inside, but I don't know what's going on, and I'll be just as frank with you as I can be. It came to me as a surprise on that Monday night when Mr. Holloway read the 3 or 4 page document that was prepared by, I'm assuming, our attorneys. I'm not sure of that. I haven't asked, so I don't know.
These are outside attorneys, not
Yes,
not those
my
in here.
understanding, yes. And But it came as a surprise to me as well, because we were always told we didn't want to talk about it because it was under a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And then this letter comes out, and then we see the results of that. The next day or a couple of days later, the EDA files a lawsuit against the town because we have not paid for the police department.
Right.
And according to my understanding is that that effective October the 1st, then the loan goes in default unless somebody comes up with the interest plus the money for the actual balance, as far as a monthly balance, which is going to amount to a little over $50,000 a month payback.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that so we can sit down and discuss it and go ahead and try to get these things worked out, because I'm against suing the EDA 100%. I've been against it, and I'm still against it. If they would have listened to me and the EDA board back in December last year, they agreed to cut the 3% interest down to 2.25 and share the cost. At that time, the interest alone was only $84,000. So if they would have cut it by 50%, ours would have been $42,000. Now that interest rate has gone from $42,000 up to almost $500,000.
That sounds like the redundant water line.
Well, yes, the prices continue to rise. And so I really believe if we would sit down, as leave the attorneys at home and sit down and discuss it, we can get this problem worked out. That is my feelings. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I just think that unless you sit down and discuss problems, nothing ever gets resolved. And I've seen that too many years over my tenure with the town and even your home life, that you have to sit down and talk out problems, and then you can resolve an issue if you're willing to negotiate.
Well, I mean, that's it's kind of disturbing when you think about, the delays of action. Okay,
Right.
Which and unfortunately, it's our money.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
well, you got to realize one thing, and this is what just bothers me so much. We're paying 100% of these lawyers for the town of Front Royal citizens,
right.
and then we're paying 50% of the attorney lawyers for the county, and another 50% for the EDA lawyers, because that money comes through the county. And so theoretically, we're paying for almost 75 to 80% of the lawyer fees, and yet we're fighting one another through the same court system.
So this is kind of a rough number. So how much you think has the town spent on these lawyers right now? How much you think?
Well, I don't know. I asked a couple weeks ago, and I was told around not 100%,
Okay.
around 170,000.
Okay. And now, how much, if we would have cut the deal back in December for the 2.5% or half percent or
2.25%,
2.25%, what would have been the payment on that?
Well, like I said, if we could have did the 2.25 and went on and got a loan
Right.
to pay off the other 8.4 million, then it's between $42,000 then to $500,000 today. So if you look at the cost differential, we've not only spent another almost $500,000, but we've also spent another $170,000 for attorneys over top of that. Yes.
And then go back to the redundant water also then, because it started out at $4 million, I think it was
$4.5 million,
and now it's up to 12
million.
because of delays, and the citizens have to pay for that.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, that doesn't sound too good.
Or when I say the citizens, right now, like I said earlier, that Dominion Power in their rates might have to be able to pay a lot of that share, but we're not sure of that yet.
I'm sure you put somebody right on that once you get back
Right.
in, right?
Exactly.
That's if they listen to you, right?
There you go.
Well, that kind of ties in because we're talking about revenues, right?
Oh yeah,
And,
sure.
and spending, I mean, you got to counter all the spending we're doing. We got to drive some revenues, right?
Well, yeah, we need to. Yes, I agree.
And so what do you think about tourism? I saw some numbers the other day that tourism, we get a lot of money from tourism in this community.
Well, in my opinion, tourism is just about like an enterprise fund.
Yeah.
I mean, we make money on pound of power, water, sewer,
Sure.
garbage, whatever. And where does our money come from in the community? It's through meals tax, lodging taxes, and people coming into our community buying products that are made in Front Royal or the surrounding area, where we also generate sales tax. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, tourism is probably our biggest commodity of Front Royal, Warren County.
Yeah. Well, what's confusing to a lot of citizens out there, changes, you have to change. I mean, you have to change
sure.
and modify.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The change in tourism, it seemed that the department was kind of wiped out, and as I understand it, it was either non-funded, and a committee was, I guess, formed with the county to do. What is the status of that? Because it doesn't seem like.
Well, as far as as I know right at this time, we have what we call a tourism board, and that's made up of members of people from Front Royal and Warren County.
Okay.
In the tourism aspect, we at one time were putting all the money forward in tourism, and now the county is able to give us a portion back of the lodging tax they receive, and I believe it's 5% of the amount of money. Well, it's more than that, but anyway, it amounts to a pretty good chunk of money that the county is able to put into the coffers.
So by making this move, we were able to get some more money from the county in addition to the money we give to it?
The county asked the General Assembly to allow them to raise the lodging tax. And in the raising of the lodging tax, they had to allocate X number of dollars of that money to tourism. And so with the money that they bring forward, and the money that we have, and we've set up a tourism board, and that board will be working towards, tourism in the community. My philosophy is on this thing, and again, it's only mine, is I think that the tourism board, I think, is great, since the county and the town's putting money into coffers.
Okay.
But I do think we need a director. We need a local person to direct our tourism. And we need to continue to support our visitor center and those who come in and volunteer, because we have a lot of volunteers. And I think we need to support those people. And I know right now we have put out some things to private enterprise to do some advertising, yada, yada, yada. But, to me, who knows better in Warren County than people that live here? Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that's why we need a director who is in charge of making sure that we advertise properly in the magazines, and have our kiosk staff with all good literature, and have the visitor center always stocked up with things that visitors that come in can get, and so that we can more support our community, our local community, and enjoy the revenue that's brought forward through our tourism people.
Well, Gene, again, I'm just going to push you just a little bit on this one. You remember there was some talk of increasing the lodging tax back when you were mayor and everything.
Yes.
And one of the groups that came forward was complaining the fact that it was going to make them uncompetitive, especially in the town, because you had the town tax and then you had a county tax, mm-hmm. and the two of them combined would make them uncompetitive and couldn't make money. And so they did pass an increase so that the people who have lodging in town got a tax increase from the county side on their lodging, right?
That's correct.
So, okay, so I didn't hear any complaints about it this time around. Maybe we were distracted, but you remember, I mean, people were going crazy on us, talking about, now you're going to put us out of business, you're increasing the lodging tax and everything else. So I'm kind of like, gee whiz. I mean, it's great that the town, we get more money for tourism, okay? And they're
exactly.
But
sure.
Again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's on the backs of the citizens
That's correct.
that are paying for this.
Well, see, going back to that thing, at the time, as I recall, that the county didn't have a lodging tax.
Well, we don't want to get it. That's another session.
And now we do. And now, in Front Royal, we have several motels that are pretty nice. Some of them are not motels. They're places people read by the week or the month. So,
Right.
you know, a lot of things have changed since that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just interesting. The only thing
Sure.
I'm keeping a little tab here when I talk to all
understand.
the candidates
I
here.
understand.
You know, it seems like the amount of money I'm going to have to pay keeps going up and up and up. So I know, and that's part of life too.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I want to, you know, I don't like taxes more than anybody
Well,
else.
you know, my philosophy has always been I want a dollar's worth of wear for the dollar I spend.
That's right.
I want to, or the old saying is, I want a bang for a buck. I want to get a dollar's worth of commodities, whatever it is.
Well, these are definitely interesting times once you throw in the pandemic and everything else. You know, we got to get the economy going, and one of the things that we have to do in this community is boost our economy, and tourism is a key component in that. And as long as we're moving, if you feel comfortable that we're actually moving forward.
Well, at this time, I think we are. I mean,
Okay.
it's going to depend on this tourism board and how we continue to operate it and how they operate it, and then we'll know later. But right now, well, let's put it this way: I didn't agree with what we did, and I'll tell anybody that. But
Okay.
again, if we've done it, and hopefully that we can work together to bring about something positive into tourism.
Right.
And because again, like I've said, the tourism is one of our big assets as far as bringing money into the community. There are some people says, well, it just creates more traffic. Well, you know, that's true. It does create more traffic, but without them, it doesn't create any money at all. At least with the traffic, we have meals tax, lodging taxes, and other things that they purchase that,
Right.
that we're going to see a benefit from.
Yeah, it's a real pickle, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
I mean, unless you have a strong industrial base that creates revenues for you, which we don't have.
we don't have that.
And then you have to go. What's the closest thing you can to make money, which is the tourism. Which Front Royal has all the amenities to attract tourism, but the challenge I think moving forward on tourism is the fact that you got to make it a place that people want to stop and spend that money.
Well, I do too, and that brings about the idea we need better restaurants.
Right.
I mean, we have some good ones, don't get me wrong, but we
Right.
need better restaurants, we need better motels,
Yeah.
and we need a lot more advertising of Front Royal Warren County.
Right.
And if you don't, you know, people think that if you advertise, it's just a waste of money. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that if you don't advertise, how's anybody going to know who we are, what we have to offer?
Right.
And like you said a minute ago, we have all the amenities. We have water, we have the mountains, we have the Skyline Drive, we have many, many, many other things that we have that other communities don't have. And if we use those wisely, I think that we can enhance our budget through the meals and lodging and all the others by spending some money to get people to come here and enjoy those commodities we have.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. One of my partners, he grew up in Warrenton, so he's familiar with the valley, and he lives down in Virginia Beach, and he has a very successful architectural firm, and he hadn't been back in this area for 25 years, so he came up. We had a meeting up here, and he said, "Well, show me Front Royal." So I took him down to two good streets we have, which is North Royal and South Street, right?
Okay.
And he's looking at me and he goes, "My goodness, you know, I work with municipalities all over the East Coast." He says, "Do you know how much these other municipalities would die to have one river, and you guys got two? Do you know how they would die to be able to have access to 24 wineries within a 20-mile location?
True.
Do you know how they would die to have 3 or 4, I don't know how many golf courses we have now, but a bunch of golf courses?" And he said, "You guys should be booming."
We should be booming. I agree, but you got to, again, it goes right back to you got to advertise,
Yeah.
and you got to spend money to advertise. And when you advertise, you'll get results.
Yeah.
Without advertising, you're not going to get results.
Right, right. Well, I think, just my personal opinion, I think the council should get aggressive and take out some of these old buildings and start attracting, and whether it's our EDA or the existing EDA to, like you say, start advertising and getting some business in. And I think especially along those corridors, which I think the last numbers was between 400,000 to 800,000 people come and hit those roads twice a year.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
be a lot of I only see it as
Yeah,
revenue. A lot of revenue
Yes,
to get
I
them on
agree.
stop and get a burger there.
I
you know?
understand.
Yeah,
I
do
agree with
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's enough on
Uh,
tourism. Let's we're wrapping up here now, and let's just the last thing we want to talk about. And I got to tell you, as I talked to a lot of citizens and also a lot of the candidates, Front Royal is very unique, and it was unique when I came here. I had no idea what an enterprise zone or enterprise department within a municipal government. And for the people that don't know this, you have water, you have sewer, you have water and sewer, you have electricity, and you have garbage collection. And those are very unique, and they operate kind of independently, but kind of the council kind of watches over them because it's
Sure.
part of their responsibility. What do you think about it? I mean, you think. What do you think of these enterprises and how we should use them, or you think we should be using them in a different way?
Well, and an enterprise fund is a fund that's, like you said, water. We charge people to draw water through our system, and in that's an enterprise fund. When you have a separate item such as water, you charge people to utilize the water that we produce, and that's why it's called an enterprise fund. It's a separate entity within the government of the town. And so we have the water, we have the sewer, the electric, the garbage, and then we have, which is really one of our biggest problems, is the general fund, which is not an enterprise fund, but
Right.
a lot of funds come out of the general fund. And
Well, that runs everything else other than
yes,
water,
other
sewer,
than
and
the-
trash, right?
that's
Your
right, exactly.
That's your paving. That's your public service. That's your roads. That's police.
Yes.
Everything. Okay.
And and that's it. But yeah, they are a separate entity. And in the town, way we work it today is we have, like, say for instance, we have the water fund, and that produces. We have to have people out, reading meters and goes through the finance and comes through the billing. So the money that we receive through that particular enterprise is for what we do to bring the money back into town after people have used the water. And so it goes through our finance department. So we're using a percentage of the money that comes through the enterprise fund to sort of offset the cost of the finance and the meter readers and things of that nature.
So, but the town. I hear what you said. Let me see if I can clarify it for me and for our audience. So primarily, the town provides service
Exactly.
to these. Like instead of the water and electricity going out hiring meter readers and billing clerks and everything else, the town actually does that for them.
Yes.
And then in that they're enabled. Then that allows the town to charge them back for those services. Okay?
Exactly.
And that
Yes.
works across the board for all of them, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So I guess the clarification would be is there any limit? Or I mean, you have, I guess you make money in these enterprises, and that's put into an enterprise fund, right? And that is supposed to cover any type of recapitalization and the stuff that they need to keep the enterprise running efficiently and effectively, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any rule, because, back when we were involved,
Right.
there was a question of, how much the town could actually dip into those to give it to the general fund
Right.
to offset some of their expenses. And that's been an ongoing debate, and I don't know whether that's changed or not. I haven't been in.
Well, it changed periodically, and that's usually is set up by our auditors. Our auditors tell us that we can pull out, well, I'm not sure exactly as of today how much, is around 7-8%, something like that, of the overall money that's brought in through the water, the sewer, the electric, and garbage. And that money is then set aside, like you said, to cover the cost of doing that work for that enterprise.
Right, right.
Other than that, the money that's in the water and the sewer and the electrical and the garbage, you cannot take any money out of that. You can borrow.
Borrow against it?
You can borrow against it, but you got to set it up as a loan,
Okay.
and you got to have a way to pay it back within a certain particular period of time.
Right.
And we've done that on numerous occasions. I know that when I was in the mayor and they bought the new town hall, that they borrowed and I'm not sure exactly how much, 1.2 million, and they borrowed it from the electrical fund, and now they're paying it back, and it should be being paid back. Probably may have already been paid back. I'm not sure exactly. No, we had a year or two late last year, I believe, but it might still be one more payment that we have to pay. So yeah, we can borrow, like I said, from these enterprise funds, but we can't just go out and say, oh, we need a new whatever, and just take the money out of the water, the sewer, the electrical, whatever. We can't do that, because that money is being generated through the sale of that product.
Right.
And that money has to stay into that funding unless, like I said, unless we borrow money. The electric department was always been a pretty good source, but what have happened over the years, our electrical money that we had in our general reserves has really fallen substantially. And the reason it has is we were being charged to get power to Front Royal through our what we call wheeling the power to here, and it was charging us so much on our electrical that we weren't making the money.
Really?
We were losing X number of dollars per month per customer every day.
Really?
And so right now our enterprise fund electrical has dropped so substantially that we're really not hurting, but we don't have anything close to what we used to have.
Right.
And if we take the money that we have in the general fund today, which is somewhere around 3.2 million, used to be 8 or 9 million, and you take out the 3-month cost that we need to reserve, then we're probably in the neighborhood of we're around minus 2.3 million. Wow. If we consider the reserve funds. And that's also the water. We're fine. We have around 10 million in the water fund. When you take the reserves out, then we've still got about 5.7. But we're going to be spending a lot of that money on new water lines.
Just general maintenance of maintaining the infrastructure for the water.
Right. We just spent $1 million out on the Fairground Road water tank.
Oh, did you really?
To rehab the inside and outside. So $1 million isn't a lot of money in today's society because it just costs so much to do anything. Going back to the sewer, right now we have 16 million in the sewer fund. Take the reserves out, we got about 10. And then we've
you got a big I&I problem,
but
right?
we've allocated 8 of that 10
okay.
that's left to I&I. And so we're down to, say, 2 million or less. And
you have to do that because the feds are going to start.
Well, the DEQ has already told us that we've got to do it.
Right.
Because we're under a consent order to cut our I&I because every now and then the big rain comes, we have a overrun of water and sewer mixed together that goes to the river.
Yeah.
And
we know
that's a no-no.
When those things start popping up and water bubbling out of there, it's not a good sign, is it?
That's true. Now, going back to the last one we talked about was the garbage. We are right now. Garbage is holding us on.
It's breaking even.
Barely, yes.
Breaking even.
We understand we have around $27,000 in our general fund for that.
I probably wouldn't want to borrow from that.
No, there's nothing to borrow. Let's put it that way. And then the general fund is our biggest issue. Our biggest issue is the general fund due to the fact that we have around 9 million. But when you take out the cost of the reserves we need, plus the things that we owe and the things we're paying on, we're about 6 million in the hole.
No kidding, really?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Now, real quick for everybody here, the general fund, how does that get revenue? We know that you can pull some revenue away from the enterprises, but where does the bulk of the general fund money come from?
Well, the bulk of the general fund money comes from revenue. It comes from meals tax, lodging tax, banker's tax, telephone tax, comes from
personal property,
real estate, personal property. Police department and the state, we get around a little over $2 million a year from the state to maintain our streets that are under the state's auspice, as far as our control.
For the police department?
No, for the street department.
Oh, street department. Okay, I thought you said
now on the police department end, we get under the $599. We get anywhere, and we don't know each year how much we're going to get. Well, we get somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year from the state under the $599 to help fray the cost of the police department. But you got to realize too, the enterprise fund, all that money brought in, and there's a lot of other issues there that I'm not able to tell you because I really don't know, because
Right.
it comes in from all different sources. But when it's pooled together, it's a pretty good chunk of money. But you got to realize too that we run our finance office out of the general fund. We run our police department out of the general fund. We run our zoning department out of the general fund. And we run, again, going back to the streets, the street is run out through the general fund, even though we're getting money back from VDOT in order to help fray that cost. But it's all being run through this one process, and each one are separate, but still all in all, it's all comes out into the general fund in that relationship.
So would you say in Front Royal today, if you broke it down in percentages, how much would you say that the revenue for the general fund comes from property tax and real estate tax? Is it 10%, 20%?
No. That's such a small majority. Real estate tax, we 1 penny real estate tax brings in the town somewhere in the neighborhood of about $107,000.
Right. Okay.
So when you multiply that by 13 times that 100, so that gives you about 1.3 million, say.
Yeah.
Personal property is probably, and I'm not sure exactly, but I would say personal property is around maybe $1 million, maybe not quite that much.
Okay, so about in your budget, when you take out the enterprise zones, all the enterprise, I last time I thought was about 23 million all total in, because you got a $53 million budget, right? Something like that.
Well, right now it's 44 million.
44. Okay.
$44 million budget, but 50% of that or thereabouts is from buying power. So then that drops it down to say 22, whatever that 22 would be.
Right.
So the 22 is a collection of all the enterprise and the general fund.
Okay. So what is the biggest contributor to the general fund, would you say? Is it all those meals taxes? And I mean, is it any one thing that stands out?
Well, I would say right now the meals tax would probably be one of the larger ones, because we getting way over $1 million a year in meals tax, and then we're also getting, the corridor. We get money from the corridor as well, and through the corridor in the 1998 agreement, we get altogether in real estate and meals and lodging, whatever. It runs around $700,000 additional with all them combined in that relationship.
Well, so it looks like you're pretty well balanced. I mean, it looks like you got a little bit of money coming from a lot of different places other than the corridor agreement. Corridor,
Oh, we do. Oh, yes.
Which seemed like a big one. Is there anything up there? If you say that's 700,000, is there anything else equivalent to 700,000 that money comes in from some other place, or is it all a bunch of other small stuff that adds?
Oh,
up
it's just like I said, it's a general collection of all the funds that come in, and
Okay.
like I said, we get money when you put it all together, like your street fund, police $5.99, the
Right.
meals, the lodging, the utilities, the banker's tax, whatever, and then it's all pooled in. Well, I take it's not all pooled into that fund.
Right.
The $5.99 has to be, you go to the police department. The street department has the 2.1
Right,
million.
right.
That's go to the street department.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the meals, lodging, and all the others, and that goes into the pool, then that goes out and finances what's remaining in that relationship, which is quite a bit.
Okay. Well, we kind of got off a little bit of the enterprise. I mean, I think you gave a great explanation how that works. I think a lot of people are confused
Well, I'm
on
sure
how
they
that
are.
works.
Sure.
It's kind of like when people get confused what the town does, what the county does. Well, those town got
Well,
that's a county deal. So.
We got to realize too, Front Royal, a town is a service organization.
Right.
The county provides. What word would I want to say? They provide things that we don't provide, such as the health department,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Recs, and all the other things. So,
Yeah.
but we are theoretically we supply utilities and things of that nature,
Right.
and we shouldn't be involved in a lot of these other things that we want to get involved in.
Right.
We should be involved in exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and let the county take care of the other things that they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Because we are part of the county.
Right.
We want to realize that. So.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right, Gene. I think that the town is set up as services.
Right.
And we have to deal with a lot of the issues. Now, I tell you what, we had about 20, and you picked 5. So
Right.
Because we wanted to not make this last for like
Well, I
3
can't-
hours or anything.
I don't want to
so.
talk all day, but I can if you want to talk about it. I don't have any
No,
problem with it.
I prefer for you to pick 5 more and come back probably in October. Would you do that?
5 more out of
You can't
this
go through
group?
the same ones over again. So you got to
Okay.
pick up 5
Well,
new ones.
Yeah, I'm more than glad to
Okay.
try to explain to the town exactly what's going on because I think that's what we're here for.
Right.
As the mayor right now, and let me say this, I was not talking as the mayor today.
Okay.
I was talking as a person running for the town council.
Gotcha.
And I want the people to realize that because that's 2 different hats.
Yes.
You know, and so, but yeah, as far as letting the people in Front Royal know what's going on is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anything that I can do to try to tell people that things they don't know, I'd be more than glad to
Okay.
try to tell you.
Well, transparency. What you're saying is you'd be
Transparency
transparent.
is very important in most cases.
Yeah. Well, the burning question is, Gene, you've been council twice, you've been mayor twice.
I have.
How come you're not going back for mayor and going for council?
Well, the biggest thing is, Mike, is people don't realize the mayor is just a name. And as far as power, I don't have any. As far as influence, very little. Depends on the council. And there's 4 reasons why I really don't want to run for mayor again. Number 1 is I don't have a vote.
Okay.
And you know what I mean by saying that. I don't vote unless there's a tie.
Right.
And when you do break a tie, you lose both sides of the coin. Those for and those against, because it's got to be controversial or it wouldn't be there.
That's right.
The second thing I do, I mean, as the chairman of the council in our meetings, I don't have a right to stand up and tell people what I think about an issue unless I relinquish my seat, give it to my vice mayor, and get down in front of the council as the general public does
Right.
and talk back, because under the Roberts rules, that's the way it's set up.
Right.
I don't care for that. I like to be an arbitrator, and this council doesn't want me to be an arbitrator on anything.
Okay.
And so that's the third one.
Okay.
And the fourth one is the fact that I have to sign documents that I don't agree with. And if you know what I'm talking about, that there's a lot of things that comes through the town council that I just don't agree with. But being the mayor,
For the audience here, I can explain this by saying the council actually votes, and then the
Exactly.
document is created, and then it has to be signed by the mayor.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Even though he didn't vote on it, he doesn't agree with it,
That's
or,
correct.
or whatever, you still got to sign this.
As a mayor, yes.
As a mayor, you have to do that.
That's correct.
Okay. You can't sign it with I don't know what the term is.
Well, I don't know.
With regret.
I've never
I'm
tried.
signing this with regret or something. I guess.
I guess I could say that.
I guess
but,
you could say that.
But I don't. I feel that I was elected to be the mayor, and I'll do whatever the mayor's
Okay.
job is, and that is signing documents that has to be signed to make it legal.
Okay. That's great. Well, Gene, thanks. I mean, you have it. That's a good way to close, I guess.
Well, again, I don't know if we're campaigning here today or not, but if everybody's out there would want me to be your councilman for another 4 years, please vote for me on election day, or even before. It started on the 18th of September, so people are voting as of today.
Yes.
And so when you go to the polls, remember my name, Eugene Tewalt, and give me a check mark or an X, however we do that.
Yep, you got to close in the box real good.
Close in the box.
Yeah,
That's right. We
close
got
in
a
that
block
box
in the
really
box,
well.
don't we? Yeah. So appreciate a vote from our citizens here at Front Royal, and I'll do the best I can to support the things that the town needs, and be more than willing to listen to anybody that has any complaints or any positive vibes that can talk to me.
Right.
My phone number's in the phone book directory, and I'm not ashamed, and I'm not scared to talk to anybody, and I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody on any subject that I think I can tell you about, or whatever it may be.
Well, Gene, this is great. I really enjoyed seeing you again, and
Me too. I enjoyed it, Mike.
yeah, enjoyed our talk. I will put in one plug. I have voted already, by the way. So
Oh, have you? Great.
Yes, I am totally unbiased now. Whoever I talk to now, I've already made the decision, and I can,
Well, that's great, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm
and-
glad that you voted. That's amazing.
Yes, I voted.
And another thing I would like to say, again, and a lot of people out in the general public wants to know why that I didn't get endorsed by the Republican committee or others. And the reason I did, our charter says that we are to be nonpartisan. And I feel that if I'm a nonpartisan, that means I'm an independent. And I don't want to be considered a Republican or a Democrat or anything else. I just want to be me, and I want to be a nonpartisan candidate, and I want to be a nonpartisan councilman, and
Do what's good for the
and
community.
do what's good for everybody in Front Royal. That's is one of my constituents, and that's why I want to stay nonpartisan. I don't want to have any ties to the organizations because that brings about problems, and I don't want that.
Gene, thank you very much. I will say that when I voted, it was easy. It was only about 6 people there. It's a lot of separation. It was probably the easiest vote I've ever had.
That's great.
And I would encourage everybody to vote early if they've come to the conclusion of who they want to support. And hopefully we'll be able to get away from not having these long lines and a lot of conflict. When it
Just
comes
go
to
out and
election
vote
day.
what you think is best.
Just go out and vote early, and I think it'll work for everybody. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, everyone. We'll be following up here shortly with some of the other candidates as we move forward on FroRo 2020. Thank you.